Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes got the national media talking about them heavy these last couple weeks. And it's all because they're 7-2 and they're bowl eligible. But it seems like some of these media pundits still not giving Deion Sanders his just due. And now they've been called out. But before we get off into today's podcast, tell a friend to tell a friend. Well, guys, man, here we go again, man. The latest, man. If it ain't one thing, it's another. People just can't give Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes their just dues. Sometimes they just can't tip their cap, man. Now we know what's been going on. And, he has heavy critics out there because of what he did last year, finishing the season 4-8. And, a lot of people came at Deion and said that, he wasn't the right coach for Colorado, not giving him a chance. He inherited a team that was 1-11, turned that team around, got 3 additional wins last year, finished the season 4-8, started 3-0 out the gate, was hot, going to the press conferences, telling people, yeah, I got receipts. Do y'all believe now? So when they went on, a losing streak and lost the last 7 out of their 8 games, a lot of people just said, hey, Deion's not cut for it. But what Deion did in the offseason, turning that program around, getting the coaching staff, now you brought in, the likes of a new offensive line coach in Phil Ledhold, ex-NFL player, played for the Minnesota Vikings. You brought in Sean Livingston, defensive coordinator from Cincinnati. Also, you got Pat Shermer, the offensive coordinator. Then you got the Pro Bowler, the Super Bowl champion, the Hall of Famer, and Warren Sapp, coaching up that defensive line and the defensive ends. And, they've turned the program around. Deion Sanders had put together a great coaching staff, and he turned the season around. What they did in the transfer portal, it was players that was on Colorado that they jumped in the transfer portal and got out, and Deion built through the transfer portal. He had commits come to the team, some that was projected to go elsewhere, but they flipped their commit and came to Colorado. And Deion Sanders has built a strong foundation out there in Boulder, Colorado. He's built a culture. And, like I said, it's a media spectacle. Deion has done some great things. And what he's done this year, 7-2, bowl eligible. Now they control their own destiny to win the Big 12 championship. All they have to do is win out, and they will have a potential date with BYU. Now, if they win that game and win the Big 12 championship, that means they should be in the college football playoffs. And since Deion is doing so good this year, the likes of one of his heavy critics, and Paul Fonbon, he has flipped the script. Now he's starting to give Deion Sanders his kudos. Now, he's been humbled, and he's talking nothing but great things about Deion Sanders and what he's doing with this program and how Colorado is playing. Now, all of a sudden, we got a new guy coming out of the fray, coming from behind the bushes, in Maddog Russo. Now, this morning on First Take, they was talking about a storyline, what would be greater storyline in college football, the Indiana program or the Colorado program. And it seemed like all hell broke loose on First Take. And also, Stephen A. Smith had to put Maddog Russo in his place off of what Paul Feinbein said it'd be the greatest story in college football if Colorado wins the Big 12 championship and they punch their ticket to get in the college football, playoffs. And Maddog Russo was having none of that. So Stephen A. Smith had to obliterate him on national TV and put him in his place. So let's take a listen to what took place on First Take this morning, because all hell broke loose and Stephen A. Smith literally destroyed Maddog Russo live on First Take. So let's roll the footage.
Paul, the voice of college football for us here at ESPN, and he just said that if Colorado makes the playoff, that will be one of the great stories in college football history. Maddog, your thoughts?
No, I disagree with that. I think if Indiana makes the playoffs, that would be a great story. Colorado's won a championship. They won a championship at Colorado back in 91 or 92. They've won a title. He's done a great job. I understand their record. Indiana, they haven't been anywhere since the 1967 Rose Bowl. That is a terrible football
make up your mind.
That guy's done a tremendous job. He's got 11 players from James Madison on his team. If Indiana gets to the 12, Steve, I know you want to jump on a Deion bandwagon, and I like him as much as you do.
No,
but
you don't.
Cannot sit there and tell me that story is bigger than Indiana. That's not fair.
First of all, don't give me a first of all. You're not being fair. You're not being fair to imitate you. So let's get that out of the way first. Secondly, will you make up your damn mind? You just finished minutes ago. You were going off about Indiana and how weak their schedule was and who the hell did they beat? And then now all of a sudden you're talking about it to be the greatest story in history. It's very impressive. 10-0 when they were 9-0 last week before this past weekend. They hadn't won more than 8 games in the season since 1967, the year I was born, for crying out loud. So, of course, I understand where you're coming from, but you killed that notion when you talked about the quality of competition or lack thereof they're going up against. Meanwhile, here we are looking at Colorado. Primetime rolls up in there. They're 1-11. That's the program he inherits. He wins 3 games. He's screaming at reporters, "Do you believe? Do you believe?" And then proceeds to lose 6 straight and 7 and 8 weeks. Everyone leaves them for dead. They go 4-8 on the season. They come into this year. They're projected, moving from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. They're projected to finish 11. And they go out there and they go 7-2. They've locked up second place. They could possibly beat BYU and take the division. On top of it all, make the college football playoff. The 2 years removed from a 1-11 season, that is one of the biggest stories in college football history. And prime time and the job that he's doing, Coach of the Year.
Now, you heard what Stephen A. Smith said. And then you heard what Maddog Russo said. And Maddog Russo was actually fumbling and bumbling over his words, and he really couldn't get it out. And Deion said, make up your damn mind. So what Maddog Russo's saying is Indiana, he went on earlier in the segment to say that the schedule that Indiana's playing, they ain't played nobody. So how is that going to be the greatest storyline in college football today? See, that's what I'm saying. These people, they're talking about Colorado hot and heavy on these media outlets, ESPN, Fox, you name it. They're talking about it. But it's still people that probably are undermining the success Deion is having. And, Paul Feinbein, like I said, I got to tip my cap to Paul Feinbein because he has humbled himself. And now that he's humbled himself, he has given Deion his just dues. Now, Jason Whitlock tried to do the same thing, and Shannon Sharp destroyed him. So now Maddog Russo wants to pop his head out and get in the friendly fire, and he just got destroyed on national television by Stephen A. Smith. Like Stephen A. Smith said, y'all got to make up your damn mind. You know what I'm saying? You're not giving Colorado and Deion Sanders no credit for what they doing and looking at the schedule, because coming into this year, like I stated on previous podcasts when I covered Colorado during the offseason, I said with the schedule they got coming up this year that I'm looking at Colorado to win 8 to 10 games. And I haven't been wrong yet. So everybody had them, like Stephen A. Smith said, left for dead. Deion Sanders inherited a 1-11 team, turned it around, remarkably got 3 extra wins, went 4-8, so that's a turnaround. Now they 7-2, bowl eligible. Come on, man. That's the greatest storyline right now that we have in college football right now, is what Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes are doing. So you guys let me know what you think about today's podcast, on how you feel about what Maddog Russo said and how Stephen A. Smith just destroyed him on national television. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K. Sapp, and we're going to catch you on the next one. And remember, if you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball Dropping drops another hot banger. And we out of here. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.